So, I saw Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, and wow, this is an amazing movie. Like, seriously though, I can't believe how great this movie is. It's just an incredible experience, which is somehow a massive step up from the original in every way imaginable. The characters, the story, the themes, the animation, and one of the most shocking aspects of which is its villain. Yeah, this movie has not one, not two, but three villains, that being Goldilocks and the Three Bears, Jack Horner, and Death himself. And no offense to Funny Short Man, I Need a Hero Lady, Not So Charming, Dream, and also the Egg from Puss in Boots 1, because I still really like most of these guys, but I love the three of these villains more than any of these other bad guys. And you would think that the movie would get overcrowded and too messy with juggling so many villains at once, but miraculously they all blend together so well. It's crazy. They all serve their own purpose as threats to the protagonist so well from beginning to end that I would truly consider them to be perfect villains. Yeah, perfect. I wanted to make an all-out review on this movie and why it slaps so hard, but I knew that it would just get swept under the rug of all the other praise videos based around the film, so until that dies down a bit, I thought why not make a little video on the big bads, because they're a really big reason why this movie functions so well. So let me explain how Puss in Boots 2 crafted perfect villains. Okay, so I want to get to talking about all three of these guys in this video, so here's what. I'm gonna go through each one of them and do my best to convince you that they are all legitimately perfect. So let's start off with Goldilocks and the Three Bears quadrio, who are depicted as a crime family of sorts in this movie. Going in to see Puss in Boots 2 for the first time, I was kind of expecting them to be the main villain group, but no, I was wrong. There is another extremely praised villain, which I will get to soon, who is actually the main villain of Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. Remember that I will get to him soon, so you better watch till the end of this video. Now, kids, that is what you call foreshadowing. Another thing the top secret main villain of this movie handles perfect. Okay, I'm not going to throw Goldie and the Bears aside, because they are still incredible at the purpose that they serve. So like I said, they have this sort of crime family shtick going on, which, can I just say, is a genius idea. They flip the typical fairy tale tropes and morphed them into bad guys. That's another thing this movie does really well, subverting the classic Disney stories on its head and ultimately delivering an idea wildly creative, just like the 4 Shrek movies. It's a bit of a shame that the first Puss in Boots movie didn't really do all this that well, but whatever, the movie's still fun, I guess. 6 out of 10, whatever, back to the real Puss in Boots movie. The chemistry between these 4 characters works wonders, and their interactions are nothing short of amazing. The comedy works insanely well for them, and they had me laughing out loud a crazy amount of times. For example, when they were all introduced, the very first scene showing them presents only Goldie talking, which if you haven't seen the film, you would probably expect. And then when they invade Mama Luna's weird cat house in the next scene, Papa Bear looks like he's about to make Mama Luna feel very unsafe, but then he speaks words, and he speaks them nicely? What? The movie built up this small ideology in the viewer's head that these bears don't speak, only to flip said ideology on the viewer's head, and that's just one tiny little example. But it's not just the comedy that works real great with them, they've actually got a ton of heart to them, illustrated through a really well executed message about found family. I actually felt so much emotion from these characters and this story and arcs throughout the movie. I also just really liked how at the end they were able to reconcile with Puss and Kitty, and the two groups just went their separate ways without violence. Bro, Goldilocks and the Three Bears were just perfect in this movie, no doubt about it. Next, we move on to the funniest big bad of Puss in Boots 2, Big Jack Horner. So this guy wasn't in any of the promotional material or trailers. I didn't really know anything about this guy going in, and man, this guy is hilarious. I love how, just like Goldilocks and the Three Bears, this character was able to blend being a legitimate threat to the protags with being so much fun to watch. As a comedic villain, he's spectacular. John Mulaney's voice performance was so great, and you can tell he really cared about his character. Every line that Jack Horner spoke felt so alive. I love how his entire backstory was that he got one-upped by Pinocchio as a kid, and his entire plan was to use this last wish to own all the magic in the world. Truly incredible. His henchmen somehow make it even better, solely because he couldn't care less about any of them. He just treats them so horribly, and by the end of the movie, they all died a shockingly gruesome death, and he doesn't even seem to care. He's just so obsessed with this last wish, and it's all so hilarious. He might actually be the funniest character in the whole film, which is saying a hang of a lot, because every character intended to be funny was actually funny. Can't say that about the first film, but it doesn't stop there. He kind of acts as the biggest big bad of the three villains, both literally and metaphorically. A large degree of the climax is built around the protags as well as Goldie and the Bears teaming up and stopping Jack Horner from getting control of the Last Wish. He is actually perfect in his role and is a legit threat to everyone around him. Well, almost everyone. There is one other villain to go. If you haven't seen Puss in Boots: The Last Wish and intend on watching it with the absolute best experience possible, then maybe here and out in the video isn't for you. It's not exactly spoilers that you should be afraid of, it's this character. So here's your chance to click off the video, watch the movie, and then hear what I have to say. 3, 2, 1. There. So, Death is legitimately one of the top 3 best villains in any animated movie. He is truly sensational in literally every way. Every moment that he is on screen is pure anxiety-inducing pain. He might actually be the scariest bad guy in cinema, and I mean that. I have never felt so afraid and trapped by any villain. He is, well, yeah, Death, or the Grim Reaper as another name, and his mission is to collect Puss's last life. What makes him so scary is the fact that no one is even able to come close to defeating him, even after the climax, which I will get to. His insane combat abilities are miraculous, and his weapon inventory is astounding. His agile and frighteningly quick movements during battle, as well as his clear dominating strength, make for a villain that barely any other DreamWorks villain could stand a chance against. His introduction is easily the best tone setter I've ever seen for a villain. Let me expand. So Puss has just heard that he is on his last life and seems, well, not too concerned about it. The bar which he's in is completely empty, and then he hears a whistling sound that gave me serious chills. We see a mysterious figure that appears to be a wolf who's sitting next to Puss. He begins to talk to him, seeming creepy, and you can tell that something's off about him. Then he reveals that he's a bounty hunter, and Puss gets ready for combat without anticipating what's about to happen next. The wolf goes from 0 to 1,000, knocking Puss down within a matter of seconds, separating him from his sword. Puss feels the top of his head, and a single drop of blood falls. Watching this, I genuinely felt trapped myself. I was staring at the screen with my eyes open, my entire body shaking, and I genuinely thought for a brief second that this was the end for Puss in Boots. Like, I still knew that it wouldn't make sense, because then we wouldn't have the rest of the movie, but in that moment, I felt so terrified as Puss's life literally flashed before his eyes. The sheer amount of anxiety that comes from this scene is just unimaginable, and is, in my opinion, the best scene in the movie. But it doesn't just work on its own. This one scene means so much to the rest of the movie, and especially to Puss's arc. Because of this encounter, Puss has to go into hiding and finally realizes that he isn't safe as a well-known hero. Because of this encounter, Puss struggles with insane anxiety and fear across the entire movie, whilst literally being stalked by this wolf. He has a freaking panic attack after noticing the wolf at one point. It's later revealed that the wolf is in fact Death, culminating in yet another seriously frightening scene. And then there's the climax. So Puss has the opportunity to take the last wish and grant himself more lives, to which Death enters the chat. Staring into Death's eyes, Puss finally learns that he needs to stand up to fear, to protect those close to him, to not take advantage of his lives, and to savor the special things. He is no longer afraid. This moment is just so perfect. This is where Puss's arc is complete. In the end, Death sees a change in Puss. He is no longer the cocky cat from the beginning of the film, but is now a humble hero. So, he walks away. No one defeats or kills him in the end. No one makes him suffer. His job was to take the life of a selfish and ignorant fool, but he doesn't see that cat anymore. He walks off undefeated, yet not having defeated. And I know I've said this word so many times in this video, but it is legitimately a perfect way to close this character. And ultimately, this is a perfect character. He was the reason for Puss's arc being so utterly spectacular, and he drives so much of the dramatic plot. Wow. I just cannot stress enough how perfect this character really is. In conclusion, every one of the 3 villains in Puss in Boots: The Last Wish are amazing. They are able to serve their purpose with little to no issues. They all drive a large degree of what makes this movie so impactful and enjoyable, making them some of my favorite villains in any DreamWorks movie. I can't wait to watch this movie 5 more times and appreciate these guys even more in the future. And that is how Puss in Boots: The Last Wish crafted perfect villains. See you later, you chumps.